How's everyone doing? Good. How was the snake show? Excellent, wasn't it? I knows what he's doing. Those of you guys that just got here, my name is Lance. I'll be doing some of the reptile shows for you guys here today. We have three. I feel like this thing is an honor touching me. All right. We have three shows for you. At 10:30, we're going to start a bird show, and the bird show is held off to my left, a big great fenced area. Shortly after that show's over with, actually 11 o'clock, we'll go back to the snake arena. We'll get the snake show started for you. We come back here at 11:45, we do another alligator show, and then from there we split shows up a little bit. If at any point through the day, if you have any questions like what time the next show is or where the next show is at, feel free to holler at the staff members. We'll help you guys figure out where you need to go or what time the show starts, things like that. Those are the shows we offer. The dome is the main attraction. That's where we house most of the collection. So hopefully you guys will spend some time up there, check out all the different animals that we have for you. There's a couple of dome guides in there, so again, if you have any questions, you can just pull them off to the side and they'll help you out. While you're outside of the dome then, the entire grounds are open to you, so you guys can hike around as much as you want, check out flower beds, things like that. Most of the animals are going to be almost on the opposite side of the sky dome. For example, the giant tortoises and the bald eagle are kind of up in that direction. The prairie dog town is right next to the snake arena, so feel free to walk around. There's a couple of outside displays on the back side of the dome, but like I said, feel free to walk around, check things out before you guys leave here today. We spend a little bit of time in here. I'm actually going to start off, just kind of introduce you guys to all the animals that we have in the enclosure. We have a variety of animals in here, so they're not all alligators, they're not all crocodiles, but I will try and show you guys some of the differences between them so that you'll be able to identify exactly what it is that you're looking at here today. Just going to cover a couple of our commonly asked questions, spend a little bit of time showing you guys some of our handling techniques, and towards the end of the program I'll also show you guys how we feed the animals out here. Does that sound good? Yeah. You guys don't really care, right? As long as I'm on this side of the fence doing it, right? Okay. In our arena here, we have right around 40 animals, and they're all reptiles. They belong to a group of reptiles that are called the crocodilians. That group is broke down into 4 types. The first 2 types I'll mention are the most common types that we hear about. Those are the alligators and the crocodiles. There's a 3rd type called the caiman, and then a 4th type called the gharial. And we have 3 of those 4 types represented here in the arena. Most of our animals are going to be American alligators. This big guy sitting right here, all these guys that have the buffet line set up for me here. This is an alligator. All of these guys are alligators. That one that's right up against the fence in front of you folks, also an alligator. And then for you guys, closest one is that guy that's way back there up against the building. Okay? These are the same kind of alligators that we find here in the United States. So down in Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, we find the American alligator. We have 2 different types of crocodile. We have about 8 or 9 Nile crocodiles. One sitting back there. Another one sitting in the water here next to this big guy. Another Nile right up front there in front of you guys. This big guy with his mouth open is also a Nile. And we have 1 saltwater crocodile mixed in here. She's sitting back here. So the easiest way to tell the difference between an alligator and a crocodile is by looking at the shapes of the heads. You'll notice that on an alligator, their head shape is very broad, kind of rounded off at the tip of the snout. Some people go as far as to say that it's a rectangle-shaped head. Here you can look at another alligator, but rectangle-shaped head. Crocodiles, on the other hand, have a triangular-shaped head, so it's a little bit more narrow, and it actually comes down to a point. And again, that's probably the easiest way to tell the difference between the alligators and the crocodiles. There are other ways to do that, so if you have another method and it works for you, by all means, go ahead and use that method. I've just found over the years, for me, the head shape's one of the easiest ways to tell them apart. We do have 2 caiman. Let's see if I can find these guys for you. We have actually both of them are sitting over here, so it might be hard for some of you guys to see these right now. We have 1 Yakare caiman sitting underneath the water. He's got his head kind of pointing off in that direction. And we have 1 brown caiman, little bitty guy, sitting right there. The caiman are a little bit harder to identify. Their head shape doesn't tell you much. It's slightly pointed like a crocodile, but it's kind of short and stubby like an alligator. Since we do only have those two caiman, though, you can look at their colors, and usually that'll help you pick them out. The brown caiman is a pale tan, or kind of a mustard yellow color, so you can look at that color for him. The Yakare caiman has the same color as an alligator, but he does have a couple of dark stripes on his lower jaw, and that's probably the best way to pick him out. So again, it's head shape for identifying an alligator from a crocodile, color pattern or coloration for identifying the caiman. Those are the animals we've got. Those are a couple of different ways to tell them apart. So usually, once we've talked a little bit about the alligators and crocodiles, that's when the first question comes up out here. Most of our guests, they want to know which of these animals is the true man-eater, or which one of these animals eats people. So the easy way to answer that is all crocodilians are carnivorous animals. They eat only meat. And all crocodilians have also been known to be cannibalistic. So if they're having a hard time finding a normal food source, they have no problem going out and hunting one another. That just goes to show that they're not really picky about what they eat. And with that being said, it's not going to make any difference if we find ourselves being chased by a large alligator or being chased by a large crocodile. They can both be a man-eater if that opportunity arises. But the key word there is the opportunity, and it is an opportunity that presents itself more often in the jungle or in the outback, and especially when you get into some of the third world countries. Okay, for an example, here in the United States, it's not very often that we have to enter into the American alligator's habitat, so the result is that we have very few bites from the American gator and even fewer fatalities. That still happens, we read about it every few years. But it doesn't happen nearly as often as what you'll find in other parts of the world. You get into parts of South America, Africa, parts of Asia, and in some of those areas, those people don't have running water, so they have to go down to a pond or a lake or a stream on a very regular basis for their water supply. And every time they do that, that's going to give that native crocodile a regular opportunity to prey on people. In fact, we can illustrate that even further. In Africa, where we find these Nile crocodiles, believe it or not, to this day, it's still claimed that more people are killed and eaten by the Nile crocodiles over there than by all of the other wild animals on that continent combined. So if you really wanted to label one of these animals as being the man-eater, you could possibly say that the Nile crocodile fits that bill, but it's again the location and the opportunity that really allow for it. And like we said before, they are not picky about what they eat, so they have been known to take women on occasion if they really have to. Not just man-eaters. Moving right along. Another question that comes up out here, how many people came out here for an exciting alligator show? Pretty much all of you, right? Paid good money to get in here, you came down, you looked at the arena, you kind of looked at the setup that we have. Some of you guys thought some guy was going to come out the back door and get chased around by 20 or 30 alligators, right? Want to watch me get chased out of the arena, alligators nipping at my heels, dive over the fence, barely make it out alive. How many people came here to watch me get bit? That's right. You can be honest with me, I know what to expect. Yeah, you want to see some blood before you leave here today? So, most of you guys got down here, had these high expectations for the show, started looking around for the excitement. There it is. That's what we gave you. So at this point you're going, man, this show is lame, right? The animals aren't doing anything, Lance is in no danger. We have people go as far as to ask if that one's a statue, or they'll point out, other ones will say, is that one dead? I had a lady one time ask me if they were inflatable. Okay? It's due to the large amount of activity that we're witnessing here. The reason you don't see a lot of our animals moving around a whole lot today, and not just out here, but even like the stuff that's on display, the reason you don't see these animals moving around a whole lot is not because they're fake or dead, it's because they're reptiles. And being a reptile, they are cold-blooded. They don't generate their own body heat. But the thing is if you're not producing your own body heat, then you're also not generating what we call nervous energy. And that's this extra energy that we have built up after we've created our own heat. Okay, so in other words, cold-blooded animals don't have that extra energy to waste. So if an alligator or crocodile or a large snake or a large lizard, if they don't have anything to do, that's exactly what they choose to do, is nothing. Because what they want is they want to conserve the little bit of energy that they have for when they might really need it, like getting food or retreating from a predator. So hopefully that will kind of explain why you don't see a lot of commotion out of the animal until right now, I guess. But when we feed them at the end of the show, they do recognize that portion of the program, so they do become a little bit more active at that point in the program. But again, up until that point, this is pretty much what we can expect from the animals. I did say I was going to try and show you guys some of our handling techniques. There's actually a couple of reasons why we do this. Not only for entertainment value, but we do use these same techniques when it comes to checking the animals for health. So we're literally just going to drag an alligator up here to the stage area, and we usually start off on their back. So I'll kind of show you guys how you get onto an alligator's back. In the event that we wanted to transport the alligator, we do want to get control of the mouth. So I'm going to try and show you guys how you can hold their mouth shut. Do a couple things like that. You guys want now? You guys want a big one or a little one? A little one? Okay. I heard little one. No. We'll get a big one. Meat one or nice one? This guy's volunteering. Meat one, yeah. That's a stupid question.
Volunteer.
Should we use him or should we find another one? That one? That's our volunteer. All right, let's see if I can get his tail here. Now the way to get on an alligator's back is pretty simple. We're going to start at the tail. We're going to start on his tail. You run and jump, and that's it. Try to get on their back. Basically what we're doing though is we're utilizing their field of vision. Okay? They have really good eyesight, but because of where the eyes are situated on the top of their head, they have a limited field of vision. So they can only see things that are off to their sides. They can also see a little bit of space that's up here above them. I'm not feeding you. They can't see anything that's directly in front of their face, and they can't see anything that's right behind them. Alright, so when I'm climbing on, I'm utilizing that blind spot. It's very important that the alligator's head is not turned one way or the other. It's also very important that we don't try and approach him from an angle. If we jump from over here, the alligator's going to see us coming. We'll try and spin around and meet us halfway. So when I land, I want my knees to land up. Anyway, when I land, I want my knees to land up in the alligator's armpits, and I want my hands to land up on top of the alligator's neck. We want to make sure that we don't overshoot this target. Obvious reasons. So here we are. The first thing you saw me do, or you may have seen me do, is I came up here and I covered up his eyes. Okay, we've been told that if you cover up an alligator's eyes, they think that they're dead. Stop moving. Obviously, we don't know what the alligator's thinking at this point, but covering up the eyes does tend to calm them down just a little bit. So if you notice me doing that, that's the reason why. So I want my knees up here in the armpits. You also want to try and get your feet kind of tucked in back here by the hind legs. That's going to prevent the alligator from standing up and then backing out from underneath me. You guys can figure out why I don't want him to do that. So from here, once we get here, the alligator's calm, once we get our knees and feet in place, if all we were doing here was just checking the animal over for physical health, most of that you can do just visually. They do get into fights quite often out here. Since they're all around the same size, most of the injuries just involve little cuts, scrapes, bite marks, and things like that. But you can check them over, make sure none of that stuff's too severe. You can check them over, make sure they don't have any broken bones, things like that. I did say, though, that in the event that we wanted to transport the alligator, we do want to get control of the mouth. So the best way to do this is you start your hands up here on the neck, slide your hands down around the jaws, and then you just force those jaws shut as you work your hands up to the front of their face. We'd have a second guy come in, he would tape the mouth shut, and then you can pick the alligator up, you can move him to whatever it is that you're doing with him. But anyway, that's really all there is to it as far as the handling, but getting a hold of the mouth, checking them over for health, things like that. So I do want to show you a couple things here before we move on. Alligators and crocodiles are what they call an amphibious reptile. They actually have some physical adaptations that allow them to live an aquatic life. The first one that I'm going to try and show you here is actually inside the mouth. Take a look inside there. Do you guys notice how you can't see down his throat? Okay. The back of their tongue operates like a valve. So when they're underwater, they can open that mouth up. The tongue is going to close off the back of the throat, and it prevents water from rushing in. The nose and the ears back here are also equipped with valves. So that animal's pretty much watertight from all these different entry points. Close them up with all the different valves. Their eyes come equipped with 2 sets of eyelids. So they have an inner eyelid that you and I don't have. It's called the nictitating membrane. Almost done, don't worry. They have a second eyelid that's kind of like a built-in pair of diving goggles. They use that clear eyelid when they're underwater, and it simply keeps the dirt, the debris out of their eye, but it still allows the alligator to see what's going on around them. Okay? And whenever they, I like how some of you guys are laughing about this. You're like, yes, here comes that blood part. But what I was saying is you'll actually see the second eyelid when they open their eye up. You get this rolling effect where it looks like the eyeball rolls into the head. That's that second eyelid uncovering. One other thing here, and I'll show you guys how we feed them. You take a look at their teeth, and you'll notice that the tooth of an alligator is conical in shape. So it's round and pointed. Tooth of that nature is not made for biting off pieces of food, and it's not made for chewing. That tooth is better made for gripping, and then just through their own strength, they have to be able to tear the meat up small enough so that they can swallow it. Whenever you see them eating, like you see it on television a lot, some of you guys may have actually seen it in person, if you ever take like a tour where they're feeding crocs and alligators. When they take down a large prey animal, quite often there's other alligators and crocodiles nearby, and it gets very violent. They all bite onto this large animal, and they start thrashing around, or sometimes you see them do what they call the death roll, where they spin their body. They're tearing off bite-sized pieces of food. Okay, now if that's how we fed them out here, come out, just set down a big chunk of meat on the ground, we're going to see a lot of the same injuries that we find in the wild. Okay, they get very reckless, and if they accidentally grab their friend's leg or tail, there's a good chance they're going to tear it off, eat it, they won't think anything of it. So when we feed them out here, we make sure that the food is cut up small enough so that they can swallow the food basically in one gulp, and that way they don't have to sit there and fight over one big piece of meat. Kind of reduce a lot of the injuries out here. Another problem we run into is for how often we do the program. We do 6 shows a day and we feed at every show that we do. So if I'm coming out that often and just randomly tossing food out to the animals, it won't take them very long before they start to associate me as the source of the food, or worse yet, they'll start to associate me as the food. So what we've done to try and avoid that is we've conditioned them to associate a visual signal with the bucket and a sound signal with being fed. So I'll tap on the bucket a couple of times. It works like a dinner bell. That way once they see the bucket and hear that noise, then they know that it's time to eat. So we'll go ahead and see what happens here. My volunteer obviously knows what's going on. Here's their sound signal. That's all it takes. We're feeding them chicken. Good. That little guy's gonna grab it here. We're feeding them chicken, but they'll eat any type of meat. Red meat, fish or fowl. A lot of times in the wild, they'll also scavenge. So they don't necessarily have to kill what they intend to eat. They make a lot of chewing motion when they get the food in their mouth. They're not really chewing the food in the sense of the word, though. They're just better situating it in their mouth so that it's a little bit easier for them to swallow it. You guys are having a hard time finding that, aren't you? kind of goes back to that limited, there he goes. It kind of goes back to that limited field of vision that we were talking about earlier. They'll see the food as it's moving through the air. They'll probably also hear it once it hits the ground, but after that it falls out of their line of sight. So then it's just a matter of feeling for the chicken. Either they'll drag their chin across it or they'll touch it with their foot. Once they feel the chicken, of course then they'll pick it up and they'll go ahead and eat it. But it does take them a while sometimes to find it. There we go. And there's that. Okay, in the water, because of how their tongue works, we said they can open their mouth underwater, but the tongue also prevents them from swallowing, so they'll bring their heads up, tilt their heads back, and then just let the food slide on down into their stomach. Just a couple pieces left here. You guys want that? He wants it. It's yours. And one more. We'll see if it takes it. Puts a lot of effort into it. You do notice that we don't feed all of the animals at the one show. We only feed out about 10 pieces of food here. Again, not enough to feed all the animals out here. It's not a big deal if some of them didn't get fed during this program. That's one of the advantages to being cold-blooded. They have such a slow metabolism that it allows them to go long periods of time without eating, and it won't affect them like it would to you and I. And put it into better comparison for you. For an alligator or crocodile to go 2 or 3 months between meals, that would be very similar to you and I going from breakfast to lunch. So if you really think about that, we all know if we skip lunch, you're not going to die, right? You wait a few hours and you pick up supper. So in reality, large crocodiles and alligators are known to go between 5 to 10 months without eating. So again, it's not a big deal out here if some of them haven't eaten all day or all week. And just the way that we feed them, I'd be willing to bet some of our animals probably go all summer without eating. We feed them all winter, so if they pack on enough weight throughout the winter, they have all that fat stored up, they might not eat again until the fall or even that following winter. So, like I said, don't be too concerned if some of them didn't eat out here. If they are really hungry, they'll have to wait a few hours till the next show, but they always know where the food is at. They don't have to put a lot of effort into getting the food. Obviously, nothing in here is underfed. Everybody's got nice full bellies on them. So anyway, I do have one last thing. I'm just going to run back. I'm going to rinse my hands off really quick, and I do have one last thing I want to show you guys here before I let you go. This little guy's name is Fluffy. Fluffy is a 2-year-old American alligator, and usually when I tell everybody how old he is, the common response is, man, they grow really slow. Like everybody's surprised that he's only this big for being 2 years old. They actually grow very quickly. They will double in size for the first, anywhere between about the first 3 and 5 years of their life. So young alligators and crocodiles, they come out of an egg about the same size as a hen's egg. And when they hatch, they're between about 4 and 6 inches long, but their body is only about as big around as a penny. So they're little bitty guys when they first hatch. In 1 year, they're going to go from a 6-inch to a 1-foot long alligator. 2 years, you go from 1 foot to 2 foot. Obviously, we're getting much larger in the body here. At 3 years, we go from a 2 foot to a 4 foot. And if they're healthy, the next year they'll double again, go from a 4 foot, or from 2 foot to 4 foot, 4 foot to 8 foot. So when you put it like that, you kind of realize how fast they actually grow. At any rate, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take Fluffy's mouth shut so he doesn't bite anybody. If you guys are interested, I'll meet you up here between the 2 fences, and as I come by, you guys are welcome to come up. You can pet Fluffy, or if you have any questions, I'll try and answer them for you at that point as well. But otherwise, that pretty much wraps up my alligator show, so I hope you guys enjoyed the program. Thank you for stopping out. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.